just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
Welcome in, Internet. We're back again.
Back with another one, baby.
This one's going to be a little philosophical for you. A little philosophical joint.
Yeah. Thought we'd go deep on you now.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about current events. We talk about politics. We talk about all these things that people are interested in, but people also are interested in Rod the Planner living his best life and me making a lot of changes in my life for the better, and, you know, Mac quitting his job and doing his thing too. Like, all of us were trying to make our shit happen, make our actual real dreams come true, not just our suburban, you know, kind of cookie cutter dream. Like, you know, we've been talking a lot about people in our lives, people we know that, you know, they're like, yeah, man, I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream, man. I got an apartment, boy.
I got a fire ass job.
But I think that's where the conversation starts, is defining what it means to go after your dreams.
Right.
Yeah.
Starts with everything starts
because
with
that is a
self-reflection.
dream to some people. Like, some people did, like, grew up with nothing, like, from the gutter, like, you know what I'm saying? And for them to be able to have their own place and to be doing, you know, whatever it is that they're doing, I think is like a huge accomplishment for some people. Not necessarily me, but, you know, I can see where people would want that.
It could be a limiting factor too, because if that's your dream, is to, you know, have a job that pays you $12 an hour where you work 40 hours a week just so you can get that 1-bedroom apartment, like, man, I want to come shake that person up and be like, there's bigger stuff out there.
Yeah,
that's your dream.
Yeah.
Like, let's get you on another level.
Yeah. I think what he's pointing at, though, is he's referencing the idea that it's really not about what it is that you do or that you're accomplishing, as long as that's the thing that you're consciously choosing. I think is the point. Like, 100%. If you're consciously choosing it, then whatever it is the success.
Also, your happiness is a big factor in that too, because if that's what you're choosing and it makes you happy, then, you know, nobody can really come from outside and say, like, you're doing it wrong. Right.
But it's really low-key kind of annoying sometimes when people are just like, yeah, my job sucks, man, and fucking this is hard, and I hate going to work, and my boss is this and trash and this and that. And you're like, so why do you do it? You know?
Exactly.
And they're like, well, you know, gotta pay the bills or some shit or whatever.
What else am I gonna do?
Yeah, you know, and
literally anything.
Yeah, like literally anything that you want to. You know what I'm saying? 100%.
Yeah, I think that people have gotten very used to being observers, like passive observers of life, and they kind of go through like I mean, I know, just speaking from experience, this is how I felt when I was doing this game. You know, just I was working at jobs, you know, always moving in and out of jobs because it really wasn't like anything I was particularly interested in doing.
Not necessarily career fields,
but
like,
you know,
jobs.
I wasn't doing anything that was like engaging for me. It was just, like you said, to pay the bills, and I was watching what was going on outside, and that was pretty much it. That was my whole life. I'd work, and then I come home and I'd play video games and stuff like that, and like I was having fun. Like, if you would ask me, like, I wasn't like upset or just, you know, I wasn't like,
I would have told
depressed.
You I was happy.
Yeah, like I wasn't depressed, but looking back on it from where I am now, I'm like, holy shit, man, like that was not what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
And like it really came from like starting to do self-reflection and think about like, well, what is it that I do want? Like, I've been told many things that I could have, but what exactly would I choose to have if I could have anything? And that's something that I feel like is like a platitude, but it's not something that people take seriously because it's actually true. Yeah, it's actually true.
Well, that's where I think that you were saying earlier too about that definition of success. That's where it falls into me, because I was doing similar stuff. You know, I had good jobs and bad jobs, and I was in the military for a long time, and you know, made a lot of money. Like, I had a job where I was making 6 figures, you know, so I was making like $140,000 a year. That's pretty good money.
Money makes you happy, right?
You know, yeah, it depends, I guess. So, you know, I was doing all these things, but I remember never, like you said, there were never anything that I wanted to do per se. Yeah. Like, I was just taking things as they came to me. Like,
right,
I was
just taking
like,
whatever they were giving you.
Like, the conversation in my house was always just like, hey, you better get a good job, you know. And so I was like, yeah, you know, like when I got out of high school, I was just like, Army seems cool, you know, like I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I was just like, hey, they'll take care of me until I kind of figure it out, I guess, and so I just went with that. And
I think the issue there is that it's always like it starts so young. Because I mean, being your brother, I also got a very similar treatment. Like, hey, you better go to college, better make sure that you have a good job and stuff like that. And so like when your parents tell you, when you're a 16-year-old, your parents tell you, make sure you get a good job, then you have to, obviously the first question that you think of, okay, what's a good job? Yeah. Never thought about that. And you really don't know much about jobs at all at that age. So then who do you look to? Your parents.
Yeah. And it's not the people just that told your parents. It's all of society telling you to get a good job, go to school, get an education.
Well, your parents are really just regurgitating what everybody's telling them.
Too.
So it's not really their fault.
Yeah, but it's like everywhere
like you said,
you look.
That's the prevailing conversation.
Right. Get a good job.
Everything you look at is going to tell you, get a degree, you're going to go farther in life. Even facts are going to show you that, like statistics. Like they're going to show you that people with degrees make more money or, all these other things too. So it's like a whole giant kind of cloud of, go into the workforce. Go work for these people, make these people money, and some people choose a different route and go into the same system. That's the beauty of capitalism too, is that you can be an entrepreneur. You can go into that system without making other people money.
But I mean, like,
well, actually, when you do, like, you are making other people money. Like, even when you're the entrepreneur, because you're providing a service. I mean, like, the person that sold us these microphones made us money, because we're now recording this podcast on it, and the podcast
I see what you're saying
will be making us money. So like you just by doing it's what Adam Smith called the invisible hand. Just by doing things, like secondary and tertiary consequences, which aren't always necessarily negative consequences, come about from those things. So when you start coming and introducing new products and services to the market as an entrepreneur, that inevitably helps anybody who exchanges with you, because otherwise they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, like
in principle, like if it wasn't good for them, they wouldn't have done it because it's voluntary.
It's a good reason to tell people to follow their dreams, because I can't tell you how many times somebody gives me or tells me a really good idea, and I'm like, damn, that's a pretty good idea. If you could create an app, then you could profit on that idea, or if you could do this other thing. Like I've had people tell me wild stuff, where it's like some random guy
really good ideas
have a really good idea, and I always think to myself, like, the reason that's not on TV right now, the reason I can't go buy that at the CVS is because you're not following your dream.
Yeah. Well, so no, this is very interesting. And I think we're getting some meat with this, because I used to be the idea guy too. Like, I had all these great ideas, and then this is where me and Mac, like, we started studying a lot of success and stuff, and your ideas aren't worth shit. Like, everybody's got good ideas. Like you were just saying, like, I've talked to so many people in my life who have really good ideas.
I've heard a million of them.
But the same reason that people don't go after their dreams, like we keep saying this, because, like, it's really tough to. I don't really think of them as dreams. I think of them as purpose. Right, so like I think you find your purpose, right?
It,
but nonetheless, but I would have all these ideas, but everybody has ideas, but it's the execution that's tough, right? It's like to have the idea and to talk about it is like throwing around your opinion. You know what I mean?
It's the easy part.
Yeah, that's the 100% easy part. But then to like make that idea come to fruition, like get the patent, study it, like hire the people, get the money to hire the people, find the investors.
Yeah, invest in yourself too, because finding purpose is you're investing in yourself.
Well, true. Yeah. Right. But I'm just talking about this thing about getting your ideas off the ground. Like the executing on your idea is 10,000 times. That's all the work. It's all the work.
Right.
And that's where people run into a roadblock. Same thing when we talk about finding your purpose or your dreams is some people know what they want to do. Like you said, like I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't think it was possible. Like I was like, oh, that's like, it's like a fear thing, or like a, what if I try and go for this and I can't make it? Everybody wants to be a singer, type situation. You can never do that is a conversation that comes about. And so,
very true.
Not only is it people pushing you to get a job, but I think they're pushing you to get a job because it's this overarching concept of be realistic, this the safe bet,
so safe, have a backup plan,
right? Or
have a plan, just have something to fall back on,
right? Just do something that's easy. It just seems like it's all easy, right? It's like, like jobs aren't necessarily easy, but it's easy to just go and do what somebody else tells you to do, and then you get paid money. You just really have to be there. It's really just time, right? It's just like, hey, be here for your time, and then we'll pay you. And it's like, that's a lot easier than building an app from scratch,
or learning how to play an instrument and starting a band,
facts,
or something like that. You're right. Like it's much easier to just go work for old Johnny Food Store than it is to pick up a fucking drum set and be the next, Geddy. I almost said Geddy Lee. Isn't he a bassist for Rush?
You mean Travis
Neil
Barker?
Neil Peart is what I was going for there.
I don't know how you went from Neil Peart to Getty Rush. But
Well, Geddy Lee, because they're both in Rush.
I don't listen to Rush, so.
yeah, I only know the first guy.
Yeah, the drummer, the famous drummer from Rush. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I'm getting that right. If I'm
Internet
not getting
fact check
that right,
this man.
if I'm-
Fact check
wait,
this
no,
man.
If I'm not getting it right, my phone is just gonna buzz, and it's gonna be my brother, and it's gonna be like, "You fucked that Rush thing all up, bro."
Don't you ever talk
Somebody
about
Rush.
Rush.
Talk about Rush
will
again.
somebody will be quick to let you know in the comments that we fucked the Rush thing completely.
That's one thing that we can count on with the internet and just random strangers being anonymous is that they will point out when you're wrong.
Oh, they'll definitely call
They'll
you
point
out
out when you're wrong.
You
or at
can
least
always
they'll
count
point
on
out when
that.
they feel like you're
So
wrong.
why so is that engage? I don't mean to sidetrack, but why so is that always the engagement? Because people are less likely to engage with positive feedback than they are with negative feedback. So I think
I
that's,
do honestly believe in the biological evidence for why that happens. Like the biological reasoning behind why we're so keened into the negative aspects, because on a survival level, you're wired to be way more in tune and aware of the threats and the dangers, because anything that's helping you is good. But I mean, if it's helping you, then it's like easy to take note of that.
Yeah, you
but
don't
it's hard to
necessarily
see a
have to pay
snake
attention
slithering
to
through
it,
the
yeah.
goddamn bushes.
Yeah.
You know, like it's hard to fucking not get eaten by a mountain lion.
We're naturally
so you have to be your subconscious diverts most of your energy to those services. I mean, like 99% of the things that you do as a human being are happening without your conscious control of them. So I think that's why, and you know, we just happen to have all this new shit that we're interacting with this old brain, and so we're discovering new ways that it's manifesting our old habits into the new reality that we have.
Yeah, we're definitely. I summed this up a long time ago from the military. This is how how I got when you sit into the recruiter station, right, or you go into the recruiter's office and stuff, and they're like,
Shout out to recruiters.
yeah,
no,
they're
shout
like,
out
they're like,
sorry,
do you want to
sarcastic
be,
shout out.
you want to be a helicopter mechanic? And I was like, well, I actually want to be a helicopter pilot, but. Of course, that doesn't count to their numbers. They put me in as a pilot, so they were like, "Well, you should get this mechanic experience in first. It's really going to help you be a better pilot." And I was like, "That makes sense." 18-year-old me is like, logic holds up. He's like, "Here, watch this video." Helicopters fucking coming in. Shit's like, you know, it's like
Army of
fucking
one
guys doing
soldiers.
crazy shit, you know, and it's like
Badass.
looking badass,
Oh, yeah.
bro. Ultimate
covered
badass.
in real gear that works.
Fast forward 5.5 years. I'm pressure washing a gigantic hangar floor.
Yep.
It's like fucking like at least
All the bird shit
at
you could
least
ever imagine.
10,000
It's like the size
square
of a
feet.
ball.
And I'm in the desert and I'm just dumping gallons of water on the floor and just scrubbing it. And I was like, this shit was not in the brochure.
They didn't show a guy
and
doing
I made
this.
it up in that moment in my life. I said, you know what? I don't ever want to hear about the good shit again. Like the good shit, I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be great. I don't need
I'll
to know,
notice
like
it.
you said, I don't need to know about it. Like I'm gonna love it. Like why would I need to be told about the things I'm gonna love? Tell me all the shit I'm gonna have to go through, because then I can decide if the good shit's gonna be worth it or not. But they don't do, like you said, they hype you up on that. Anyways, negative averse. Like you said, like I realized that too, in the sense of like it's a lot more advantageous for me to be trying to, like most people are trying to avoid pain instead of necessarily, like, you want pleasure too, but only after you've avoided the pain.
Right.
And so I think that, you know, we're always trying to find the ways that things can go wrong or why it's fucked up or something. So
that's why we take the easy route.
hence why we were just talking too. Everybody loves to point out a problem, right?
Yeah.
Man, traffic's super fucked up. Man, this sucks and that sucks. But very rarely do you see anybody banging their head against the wall and trying to come up with a solution for any of these things.
Or do you
know?
see people just like, what a great day. I didn't have traffic. Like, tell me about your day without
Yeah,
traffic.
but like you said, you get stuck in that habit though. You get stuck in the habit of constantly always looking for the problem. So even when there is no problem there, brain does its thing.
I mean,
so
think
it's
about
looking
it.
for
It's
something to
it's
complain
manifested
about,
again.
not to.
It's manifested again in like stuff like Yelp reviews and stuff like that. Like, why is it so hard to get a good review, even though most of your interactions with your customers are good?
Yeah.
Because that's the point. Most of your interactions with your customers
That's
are
all
what
the
good.
I
people
wanted.
that-
That's what I
yeah.
expected.
Yeah,
when
that's what I
came.
expect from you. But when you do something wrong,
Yeah.
oh, buddy,
Where
I'm
you
gonna
going?
remember
Yeah,
that.
that's
somebody
well, when
to hear
people
about
go
it.
to the Yelp review, they're not like, I wonder what nice things people have to say
Yeah.
about this restaurant.
Like, tell me what was
No,
broken.
you're even looking for the like.
They're
What
looking
what
for
shit
like,
did you see?
Are like, yeah, exactly. Like, I want to know if these motherfuckers got roaches.
Yeah, I got spit
like,
in my
so you're
food,
gonna look
yeah.
at the Yelp reviews like to look for the negative shit. Like, if you see a 5-star review on Yelp, you're not gonna be like, ooh, let me read about their bisque.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, oh, has anybody had any bad interaction?
Yeah.
And I'm not like calling out our entire culture, but it kind of just is that way. Like you said,
Well,
biologically.
It's not even culture. Yeah, I think it's humanity.
Yeah, it's just humans.
Human brain.
It's humans in general because it plays out in every country, all over the place. You see it online in different countries that don't even have the same social medias that we do. People are like, I think it has to do with survival. I think that the whole Sigmund Freud evolution thing, like that's why I believe in evolution. Like I still can't get over the whole, like coming from, like when people say that we come from chimpanzees, that's not really like the same. Like chimpanzees and us come from the same thing. So it's a little bit different, but I always had a problem with that. But now that I've like actually tried to understand what they're saying, I'm like, oh, this actually makes sense. The way that the system operates, and it's like the same from the largest scale to the smallest scale. You can see how it would be very advantageous for you to just survive first. Like that's what you have to do. You have to survive first and then you thrive. So you're basically, like you said, trying to alleviate all the pain and then get pleasure from there. But you're not trying to like balance out your pain with pleasure.
Well, I think to tie this all back, this is why we were saying people go for the job, right? It's like you said, it's not about following your dreams or finding a purpose.
Least resistance.
It's about surviving. And, these people offer you the easiest and most guaranteed route to survival, like cold hard cash in pocket. Like
it's
I said,
already set up.
It's already set up. You don't need to worry about if it works or not. Like it literally is just so I think that's why most people default to it and not in the sense of, and you don't really think outside of that because a lot of people are just running on that hard wire of like, just got to survive out here. Like, just surviving. So, but I think that leads to very unhappy people in the society which we live in, where survival is almost kind of guaranteed. I mean, especially in America.
Here in America, we're specifically talking about first world nations here, basically, because obviously, and that's the whole
there's
point,
a lot of
you have
people
to
around the world
first,
who are just fighting for survival.
Just
period.
survive.
Like,
It sounds
that's
like
why I said, like, if you came from the gutter, like, and to get that middle class lifestyle, like that's a gift.
Great, yeah.
It sounds like we're making a case for universal basic income, but I don't think the three of us, I don't think any of us three think the government should just be giving out a bunch of free money every month. But the idea that gets you past the rate of survival is the deeper theory that I would like to touch on. This idea that if we, in our society, not necessarily a safety net, more so just a base, like a floor.
Yeah.
I like that idea, like the compassionate side of me, and yes, there is one. I like that idea.
I can see it in your eyes.
But the problem for me is that I think that generates the wrong incentives. Like, I feel like I want to do that, but that's not really what's best for everybody, because I feel like what you would rather do is spend your time making everybody as capable as possible. Like, you don't want to make your child safe. You want to make your child capable so that your child is able to do the things it needs to do as it's progressing through its life. So in the same way, like, you don't want to console your society. You want to make your society capable. You want it to be able to survive in harsh conditions if it needs to. Because if your safety net or your base falls out from under you, then everybody drops. If that's because, as we've just illustrated, the majority of people are going to take the path of least resistance. And if the path of least resistance involves getting money without having to even have the job, then I feel like a lot of people will do that, and they'll fill their time, but I don't think that they'll fill their time with anything purpose-driven.
That's where I'm at with it. It's like the whole premise of my whole premise in this conversation is the fact that chase for survival does not lead to happiness, right? So for example, you fall into the job, but then why do you work that shitty job that you hate for 40 years?
Yeah, after you know that you hate it.
Yeah, and you've been surviving out here for a long time, but you never switched gears into that, like, well, what's my purpose or my dream, or what can I do to give beyond this, and so I worry that doesn't kick on if I just hand you the job now. So instead
that's
of
my same worry,
right?
Too, yeah.
It's like if I just say, okay, well, here's basic survival, you don't have to worry about that, then it encourages more people to just sit there on the bottom, right? I feel like, I don't know necessarily, but
some number of people will be like, oh, my survival's taken care of now, I can go be amazing, and
right?
They'll make amazing things and do amazing things, but we don't.
But
I think a lot of people will attempt it, but I don't think a lot of people will follow through, because I mean, we see that now.
No, based on human nature, you're kind of making the point that like, yeah, like they might just sit on the floor. A lot of people might like if you give them a floor,
they're just gonna,
not everybody's
lay
going
on
to
it,
reach
yeah.
for the stars. They're
Some
just going to
people-
sleep on the floor.
There's a lot of people out here fighting to raise the minimum wage, and I'm like, you should be fighting to get the fuck away from the minimum wage.
Yeah,
Like,
you should be
I
trying
don't
your
see
best.
why
to-
you would ever want to be down there for so long, in a sense of like that you're trying to argue for it to be raised in some way to help. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I just think that that's where I fall into it. You're not going to find happiness in this. Like, I don't know. I believe personally that it's hard to find fulfillment, like full fulfillment, because life doesn't come with no purpose. Like, there is no handbook or no like you said, this is what you were destined to do, buddy. Go get out there and get it. So until you make that up or find that, then your life is always like, wow, this is just what it is. I just work this job and pay my bills and hope that I get a little bit of fun on the weekends, and like I get to go on these vacations. But
Yeah. Well, some people find purpose in their job, like we were discussing. Like
Sure.
we're not necessarily judging.
nah,
them,
some people,
but
yeah.
Yeah,
some people-
whatever your purpose is.
Some people find their purpose. We discussed this the other day in religion, where it's like a huge number of people in this world find their purpose in their mission in God
Yeah.
or whatever religion they are.
Yeah.
So for someone who, speaking from my point of view, who doesn't necessarily have God as my purpose, what is my purpose? So what am I doing to fulfill and tell and create my story? And you know, so it's like
What
that's
is it? Ah, spot.
the point is not what everybody's dream is,
Yeah.
right? The point is that you find your purpose.
Yeah.
You find what you want to do
Yeah.
and what makes you happy, and you
think
go
so.
do it.
Yeah, I think that's
Because when you are doing that,
yeah.
you are contributing to the world. It's just it's a default way to contribute to the world because you're increasing your happiness. People around you are going to be more happy.
I mean, but aren't you contributing to the world if you work that job too?
Not if you're sitting there every day hating that job.
You're still contributing.
Bringing that. Well, yeah, I'm saying you're contributing, but you're contributing a different form of energy. Like
Yeah,
if you're
for sure.
if you're just constantly all day, because I've had people in my life before who hated their job and worked at the same job as me, and we would go home together every day. And that person who hated their job so much would bring that negativity home. I remember getting to a point where it's just like, please quit this job.
Yeah.
Please, like, I'll help you find another one.
Yeah.
And in that particular case, this person did find a different job and was happier for a time. You know, it never lasts.
It never lasts until you find that purpose, like you said, to something that really you key in on.
Yeah, and when you do find that purpose, I feel like that's kind of where this conversation is going. Is that I'm not going to look at everyone else in the world who's not trying to do what I'm doing, which is not work for someone else, try to work for myself, try to better myself through whatever purpose I find, create and give to people. If you're not doing that, we're not shitting on you. I want to really hammer that home. Like, if people are happy where they are, I say let them be. I've picked this up from Mac, but if you tell me about where you're at, I'm probably gonna pick away at that exterior a little bit. I'm going to chip at that because I want people to be better, because everyone can. The idea that don't go follow your dreams unless you have like a really good setup that you're definitely going to succeed. Fuck that. Go and throw caution to the wind, man. I would tell anybody the same thing.
I think that's conflating happiness and purpose, though. Like, I don't think that. So, for example, I feel like I'm definitely on purpose, right? Like, I figured out what it is I'm supposed to be doing in this world, or like what I feel like, I don't know, like what I'm just most driven to do and to give. I think it definitely comes out of a give, but not always happy doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like your job, right? Like, just like work a job or anything, it's like you're never always necessarily happy. Like, it causes me a lot of stress and struggle sometimes, but because it's my purpose, because it gives me like this lifelong mission. That's the one thing about religion and God is like, it's a lifelong purpose. You never get to you never accomplish it until you're dead, right? So like getting to heaven doesn't happen until you die. So you have to stay striving on that purpose of honoring God or whatever it is all the way through to the end. And so I think that's, in the same sense of like a purpose drives you all the way through your life, no matter what kind of emotion you're feeling or whatever. It's like you just
through the ups and the downs,
right?
I see what you're saying.
You're like,
I'm feeling happy because I'm following my purpose now, but there might come a time where I'm following my purpose and it's leading to
it's
bad
tough.
emotions.
It's struggle.
Yeah,
I just don't like. I think that you don't want to, because like you said, your happiness. Like a lot of people are working a job that they hate, but then you ask them, "You happy?" Oh yeah, no, I'm totally happy. I'm totally happy. I got this and that, right? Because you feel happiness.
Yeah, but the next paragraph starts with, I would really like to do this
like
other
scuff,
thing.
Scuff.
Yeah.
Well, you could be happier.
Yeah.
So, I think what you're getting at is the fact that, the point that you're getting at is the fact that people are not always willing to look further ahead and say, how could I be happier? Like this is my base, and then I could progress from there.
I think John's point to the fact that rationalization's a bitch.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like you'll rationalize yourself into a state of like, I like this just because you
also because you get defensive too. Like I think about myself and I think about a conversation that me and you had and how it went, and I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure if Sherrod calling me in April 2018 was like, hey man, are you happy? I was probably like, yeah man, I'm happy. Shit, I got a new PC. Yeah, man, I got this, I got this game, I got this apartment, I got 2 Hungry Man dinners in the freezer. It's like, you get to the point where it's like, you don't want to necessarily say like, I could be doing so much better. It takes somebody else to come in sometimes and be like, you could be so much better. Yeah. We talked about, psychedelics and how that helped me kind of realize that I could be more. Some people do that. Some people describe that experience about, breaking down the ego. There's a lot of things to do with psychedelics. There's even theories we've talked about previously. So, my personal experience is probably different than most in the sense that it took that jolt for me personally to look around after having, and I think it was right before a conversation with you that also it was just very good timing of the universe to be like, hey man,
you hit me up after that.
Yeah.
It was like a month after that, maybe.
Yeah. So it's really in my personal experience, like you said, I might conflate purpose with happiness because I felt like even though I was defensively happy, I wasn't happy living that 9 to 5.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think the word choice is important here. I learned this from Tony Robbins and stuff like I said, and that's why dreams is not a good word for it. It's purpose and fulfillment, because like I said, I felt happy even in the jobs that I hated. I hated them, but I'm just like, the jobs that I didn't pick, right? Because that's what we said. Choice is a big factor in this. I had happiness. Like I had money, so I was able to do cool things. Like I went on vacations, Dubai, Mexico for a couple weeks. Like I had stuff, I could get anything I wanted. So I could get these shots of happiness from all types of stuff. And that's why happiness isn't the right word for it, because happiness comes and goes anyways, regardless of what you're doing. But the purpose or the fulfillment that you get, like when you feel like, dang, I'm doing a good job, or this is worth something, because we've only talked about in the sense of jobs. Some people get purpose from like, I'm a good mom. You know what I mean? Like like my kids are happy, healthy, and growing every day, and that gives me like a mission every day, or like a why of like why you got to do this, why you got to fucking go through this shit that is life, and so. Purpose and fulfillment, I think, are the words, because you could be happy with what you have or what you're doing and stuff, but then not feel fulfilled, like feel like you said you're not executing to your best potential, and I think the rationalization is key. We're talking about this because you rationalize that to maintain your limits, right? You really have to, I think, if people want to find their purpose or something, you have to dig deep in there and say, like, if there was no boundaries at all, like, you know what I mean? Like, really, like, if I didn't have responsibilities, if money wasn't a real thing, like, what would you do? Like, if you could, because everybody says, oh, I would love to be a movie star, but like, you can't imagine a world where
that's not even true though. Like they say that, like, even when you ask them, like, oh, well, I'd love to, be a movie star or something like that. That's not even true. Like, because then you, like, when you show them what it means to be an actor and, like, actually do that job, they're like, oh, probably not.
Well, I'm just saying, like, people, usually what you do want to do, your potential is outside of your realm of what you think you can do at this moment. So it doesn't, you're right. I'm not saying
so much, like, inner reflection on who you are as a person.
Because some people would want to be whatever it is, I'm almost 99% sure. Because like we talked about, purpose drives you through life. So you never really get there. So you whatever you're picking is like, dude, okay, for example, being a motivational speaker, Rod the Planner, like there's so many things I got to do to live up to this idea I have in my mind. I got to write a book. Authoring like terrifies me. You know what I mean? Like terrified. Like the person I was when I started this could never write a book, you know, but I've over time changed and grown and get closer and closer to this idea of writing a book, you know? And so it's like that purpose is usually so big, it drives you to be outside of what you already are and to grow through like life. And then, it's so funny. Religion, like you said, is almost just like a job in the sense of it gives it to you like in a cookie cutter sheet of like, hey, look, man, if you can't figure out anything else, just follow this. And this doctrine kind of like breeds you to be this way. But
why do you think it was so popular back in the times when you literally were not allowed to choose what you wanted to do?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was like
that's true.
A really big way because it hits so many different key things that human beings need, which is it gives you some purpose. It gives you some connection with others. It gives you some belonging.
Yeah.
Hope.
It gives you some hope.
Yeah.
It gives you like you said, like a mission, something to work towards.
Yeah.
So it provides you with all of these metaphysical things like that people I think really take for granted, especially now in our like hyper materialistic society that we live in.
100%.
I remember listening to Sadhguru talk about how powerful it is to take a shower. And he was like, there's a lot more going on than just water running over your body. He's like, the water is so like, he was like, we're so connected with water. It's not even funny. Like it's a very spiritual cleansing process
you are water.
to be washed with water. He was talking about how like, why do you think you get baptized in many religions? And he was like, it's not necessarily just in Christianity. Like there's lots of different similar rituals to baptizing. So, but it always involves water. Well, not always, but a lot of times it involves water throughout all of human history. So it's like there's so many more things going on. We were talking about it, I think yesterday, about rites of passage.
We were.
And how like we still have symbolic rites of passage, but I felt like they were more like shells of the real deep spiritual things that you used to go through with your family and your community back when we were more in tune with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you have like your quinceañeras and your bat mitzvahs and your graduations from certain levels.
But even those are just to go buy decorations and fill out a banquet hall.
It's a symbolic gesture at this point,
right?
Where the conversation we were having was like earlier civilizations had these rites of passage because they wanted you to move into adulthood. Like they all looked at it like, you know, the same way, like you said, nature. It's like all of it, we see it in nature, what we see in us, in ourselves. We see in the culture of nature in human culture. So it's like the idea of rites of passage is in the animal world too.
Right.
Like you kick the bird out of the nest and it flies.
Yeah.
Like all these things happen.
Yeah.
The gorilla mom teaches the kid how to peel the banana. Like you know, it doesn't do it for the kid. It teaches the kid.
Right.
So we see that reflected back in the animal world. But yeah, definitely this idea of rites of passage. Like we don't send our kids off into the world to fight animals and survive anymore. We just, you know, we're in a civilized society now, so that's gone. And I don't know if our brain was ready for that.
Well, that's this what consumerism, I think, has killed a lot of this entire conversation. If it wasn't the fear that we were talking about earlier, or the like perceived limitations, it's the fact that you know, they created this interesting cycle where you do get the job, right? And then you use that job to get these little tokens, you know, these little money spending devices. And then you exchange that back into the system for your quote unquote happiness or whatever.
Your little rewards.
Yeah, your little rewards.
It's like
your
Dave
little
and Buster's.
dopamine. Yeah, it's just like Dave and Buster's. Right?
I mean, Dave and Buster's is just like a small
and then
U.S.
we
economy.
give you a little, we give you a little reward,
very close.
and you get to go buy you a little Gidget gadget, and your Gidget gadget gives you that stimulus of happiness. But the problem being all is that, like you said, there's real no connection to it. There's no hardship that's involved in it, and so you just that happiness, it's like a ride. You're like, whoop, you get that little bump, and then that bump wears off immediately
when all your tokens are gone,
right? And so I need more tokens. What do you gotta do to get your tokens? So I gotta go back to the job. So you go through this lull of like, damn, working this shitty job, I hate it. But then you get some money.
I got enough
and
tokens.
And then you go out on the weekend and get fucked up, or buy a new Birkin bag, or
skee
whatever
ball.
you do. You know, go on a vacation to fucking Maui or some shit, and you get that little. And so we're all on this little like cycle that goes back and forth. So consumerism is definitely like, that's what I think holds a lot of people. Gary Vee talks about this a lot. why you go for this $250,000 job, right? Whatever, but you're miserable. He's like, you could easily take a job that pays you like $140,000, right? That's a lot less money, but you'd be way happier, way more fulfilled, way more, just whatever, connected to it, get passion from it. But in the society, you're like, well, I got to rack up these chips though, because that's where I'm going to get, and so it's weird. The conversation isn't even driven towards purpose or fulfillment. Or
I think all of these things stem from the fact that people aren't consciously choosing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because the reason that you go back to Dave & Buster's and you love Dave & Buster's and it doesn't seem like a whole fucking shit show is that you're not forced to do anything every day that you really don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like if you aren't like, maybe you like skee ball every once in a while, but imagine if you were that person and you had to play skee ball for 8 hours a day all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would suck. You would be like, man, like you totally ruined skee ball for me, or whatever, So, but if you love skee ball, then you would love to do that. Get paid to play skee ball. That'd be like amazing. Yeah. You'd be like a professional skee ball player, and which there are professional skee ball players. In case you didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I once you said it, I assumed there was some sort of league.
Oh,
I just didn't know how professional that
now, look,
league was.
I'm not saying that you're going to be a rich professional skee ball player, like in U.S. rich terms. But, I mean, if you love playing skee ball, then that'd be a great career.
I mean, if there's people out here speed running Wii golf, then anything's possible.
Well, and I think that this time right now is the best time to have this conversation because of the fact that right now, if you live in America or a first world nation, you have so many tools at your disposal that will allow you to so quickly make the transition faster than any entrepreneur has ever been able to make a transition from working for someone else to themselves
in multiple
in
industries.
history.
In multiple industries, including
every
entertainment,
industry.
where there's just like
industry.
no gatekeepers.
It's just
in
exploded
entertainment
now.
anymore.
It's exploded with the internet
everywhere. Yeah, the internet has literally changed the whole landscape of how our economy works.
Yeah.
And so now you can
monetize anything.
Sell
anything.
the craziest shit online.
That was the thing about it too that was about professional skee ball. That's something when I studied and I really stepped back from the world and I looked at it, I'm like, you can make money doing any fucking thing.
Literally anything.
Yeah. There's millionaires who got off of teaching preschool.
Yep.
Like kindergarten. Like people are like, teachers don't make no money and this and that, but there's
if
rich
you do
ass
it the right
teachers
way.
out
Yeah.
here. You know what I mean? Like there's I in Tony Robbins' book, I'm reading about this one dude who started an online school. Like he was doing tutoring and working at a school, and people were like, "Oh, we love you. You're such a good, teacher." His kids were getting all kinds of great grades and stuff. So he's like, take this on the internet. Put it on the internet. Started making $1 million a year from his online school. Right? He's just got like tons and tons and tons of people from all around the world sign up for his online school, and he's doing this, but he's still teaching in school. So, but you can monetize anything. You can become a skee ball champion. Dude, I was saw the other day that they have competitions for who can draw the most perfect circle freehand.
That's true.
That's a competition, like a real championship.
Yep.
What?
You can
They televise shit like that.
There's guys who like go to Goodwill, find random tapes, and then review the tapes.
Yeah, right. And people are watching.
And it'll be like TV, like a TV sitcom from 1992 with some commercial breaks.
I came up with a very similar idea back in the day when I still lived in Austin. It was called Wiki That Record, where I went to the thrift store and I would like shop for some records, and then I would bring them home. And I would Wikipedia them, and I would just, explain the Wikipedia and kind of dig deeper into the shit behind it while you listened along with it with me. And so, like,
it's good content.
Yeah, I mean, I was just so funny that when you were talking about it, I was like, I've done that shit. I did that with music.
Yeah,
but,
there's people that do slime reviews and have make $1 million a year. So it's like it is a good point that I want to hit on too, is that you can do anything. Like don't limit yourself, because I hear people limit themselves, and when they limit themselves, it drives me crazy, because you can do anything.
You can do anything, or you can make money doing anything, because like you said, we have these ideas that are proliferated through the culture and stuff. Also, you got to get creative, I think, too, because we also got to talk. Yeah, we got to talk about the dude who ends up being 5'2", but his dream was to play in the NBA. Right. And you're like, what do you tell this kid? His whole purpose, his whole mission in life, from maybe all of high school, where he was dope, because you're
not everybody was that big.
Not everybody was 6'7", but then you end up 5'2", and you're slighted. Now you're like, oh, now I gotta fall back on the survival instinct and just go get a job at some corporation or some shit, right? And it's like, dude, there's so many other ways to be involved in the game of basketball besides playing it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you could coach.
Not
you
to
could
mention
be
that really
an
short
announcer.
people could play.
Yes, short people have made it into the
You
NBA.
could adapt,
But
you could adapt your game.
yeah, it's happened, but it's a lot less likely. Like it's definitely gonna put people out. Like
You'd have to work a lot harder.
yeah, and I think it's an important conversation to have because sometimes you try to, just like they funnel you into jobs, sometimes they funnel you into a dream too. Like you said, you want to be an actor or you want to be a basketball star or you know it's
Immediately
like it's
you might
generic.
Think,
it's
there's so
almost
many
generic.
ways to be an actor or
right or to get
or
involved
to
in
be paid involving basketball. Like
Right.
you were talking about being involved. Like people talk about like the guy holding the flag on the sidelines of the NFL. Like he's part of the NFL. Like his check says NFL on it. But also, just as, like because of the internet, how amazing it is, you could literally start like a 5'5" and under basketball league. Like Ice Cube has his own basketball league.
Big Three.
It's through the 3v3 league on smaller courts.
Shout
and shit
out
like
to
that.
Big Three. I was a
Shout
fan.
out to the Big
I
Three
was a fan.
basketball league, bro. It's still good. It's even better now. There's even better players, and they're crazy cool. It's like Sergio. It's like when we watched Sergio Busquets playing futsal, and he was just chopping those. And I was like, dude, I didn't know that big.
Bro,
guy
you got
could
Nate
fucking-
Robinson. You got Birdman. I seen Big Baby Davis win it
shout
all
out
on
shout
the
out
Big
the
Three.
professor.
Yeah, shout out
Yo,
to the professor, Bone Collector.
Bro, if you've never
making
listened
money
to,
playing basketball, baby.
if you've
5
never
mil.
listened to Professor's TED Talk,
5 million subs.
Oh yeah.
I was just watching some stuff on him the other today. His answering Google questions, and one of the Google questions was, "How can the professor never play in the NBA?" You know, and that's what I'm saying. It goes to show, like they're like, "You're good at basketball." Ultimately, right? The best thing you could possibly do is be in the NBA. And he was like, "Well, look, I signed with N1 when I was young, so I wasn't able to play basketball like
a lot of his moves
professionally,
are illegal as well.
right? Stuff like that. So and the game wasn't tailored towards him. But he's sitting there now, though, and he's like, "But look, like now." Like if you ask me, do I want to go play in the NBA or would I go back to being? He's like, no, absolutely not. Like, like I love what I do. I get to play basketball in an entertaining fashion, but I get to do it on my own dime, in my own time, in my own way. And so that's cool in the sense of like, like I said, too often people box in their dream too or their purpose or whatever in a sense of like it has to be the way that everybody else did it. And it doesn't necessarily.
You don't have to do basketball the quote unquote right way.
Right.
You can do it your way.
Also, let's get the professor on the Big Three. Let's go.
Yeah.
let's get an
He does. He
expansion
says
team.
he actually doesn't play. Like he
doesn't really play.
Like I said, he's at the point now where he's just doing his own exhibitions.
He's
his
making
own
plenty of
thing.
YouTube
Like, he
money.
doesn't
I'm
need
just
the
saying.
Big Three.
I'm just saying, you put Professor up against Nate Robinson, I'm tuning in.
Yeah.
I would love to watch like a celebrity Big Three game of some like highly skilled YouTube basketball stars.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that just goes to show, like like you said, you have to get creative with it because that way you expand your possibilities because your possibilities are limitless as long as you don't limit yourself on them.
Mm-hmm.
If you limit your own possibilities to, if I want to do something with basketball, I have to be in the NBA. That's a huge limitation that you're setting on yourself. You don't have to do that.
Right.
You could be a high school basketball coach and
true.
love your entire life.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy.
it's like get creative. I love that you brought that up because I was about to say it and I was like, we got to tell these motherfuckers.
Damn, that was you said putting a limit on your possibilities is a limit in itself too.
Right, yeah. Like I was saying
profound.
that your possibilities are limitless unless you limit them.
Yeah, that's profound.
Yeah, because all those obstacles are up here.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you might imagine them in the world, and even if there are some tactile, like real obstacles in the world, all the real ones, all the ones that are gonna put limits
Stop
on
you,
you, or
yeah.
everything that's gonna stop you is up here.
I gotta throw some criticism out here, right here. I just got to because
He's got to throw some.
I do. I got it. Like like you said, all the way up till now, I've been trying to be as least judgmental about this as I can be because I really don't give a shit. Like I said, I really don't care. I think everybody's gonna choose. Like I think Max summed it up best. If it's your choice, and that's like if you choose that, honestly, even if you're living in a rationalization world, like even if you're just rationalizing happiness in your own mind, so be it. Whatever. You're gonna live in that fantasy world, and there's nothing I can do. So anyway, I don't care. But for most people, what holds them back from that? How come you don't get from the idea to the execution, right? And it's because it's fucking hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not hard in the sense of physically, but it's hard mentally. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I see is plaguing. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if it's our generation. This could be plaguing humankind for all I know. But it's this inability or unwillingness to do rigorous thinking. Right? Like to really, like there's nothing stopping you from creating an app. Like, I just want, to the world, like you said, to the whole world. There's nothing stopping you. There's so many people out there who know how to do the programming, who are willing to invest, who are whatever. But you're going to have to think. Like, you're going to have to sit down and figure out, how does this thing work? Yeah. How do I get it to be real? Like, what pieces do I need? Like, where are my pitfalls? Like, just whatever. It's just going to take hours and hours of thought. And
I think you're bringing up the term reverse engineering.
Yeah.
You have to literally reverse engineer your idea down to the next thing that you can do from where you're at.
Right. But this is also not just your purpose, though. This is everything that I think.
Everything, yeah.
Your politics, right? Why we suck at politics? Because you're unwilling to do the hard, rigorous thinking that's involved in making the right decision,
which is admitting when you're wrong, critical thinking, like all those
taking into aspects, viewpoints that you don't like,
right? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's all these
and
things,
still being able to think about them properly, right? And not being like
all emotionally
turning your triggers off to where you can have a conversation about things that make you upset.
Even Mac was saying earlier, it's almost impossible to get to your purpose without serious levels of self-reflection, right? Which
I believe that it is impossible. There's only a few things that I think are impossible, but one of them is finding any sort of fulfillment without any sort of self-reflection. Like the idea that you're gonna fall I guess you could fall ass backwards into fulfillment.
Some people have done that.
But I'd say more people have won the lottery.
Yeah.
And I mean, look how many people win the lottery.
Yeah, that's true. But it's because how would you know? Like, think about it. If you don't know what makes you like fucking juiced up, like if you don't know what gets your juices flowing, I don't know what other word to really say.
I would actually argue that the people who fall ass backwards into that are actually practicing self-reflection without understanding that that's what they're doing.
I get you.
Because I think that there are I didn't know that I was because I've actually been doing this from the time that I can remember. Really, I've been thinking about everything that I do all the time. Obviously not as critically as I do now, but since I was young, I can remember doing that.
Well, I think everybody does.
And I think that that's something that we learn from like our parents and society at large. Like we just kind of absorb that as we do with everything else. But if you don't get it explained to you, it's like those subconscious beliefs that you have without knowing.
Yeah.
You know, like you might follow out this process that other people get paid to teach, and you have no idea that you're even doing it just because that's just something you've been doing your whole life. Like you just got, Yeah. So that's another thing. I think that would be the case, is that you still need to do the self-reflection. Yeah. They just wouldn't be like, self-reflection. Like, I don't know. I just was doing my thing. And it's like.
But it's rigorous levels of thinking is my point. It's like time where you really just, you turn off things, or you really just sit, instead of being like you said, when you think about your life and you start thinking, well, man, this actually kind of sucks. Like, I actually kind of hate this, and I'm not fulfilled, and I don't make enough money, and I'm not as talented as I want. Mm-hmm. You start to feel bad. You start feeling bad, and you don't like that.
Well,
so you run
changing
from
is
that.
hard work,
and that's hard too.
Changing is hard work, so you just want to sit there on the floor.
Think, like, it's gonna be impossible for me to, and so you really have to just go on this journey of being like, fuck that. I'm gonna think my way through this, or I'm gonna struggle through trying to write a book, or struggle through trying to create the app, or whatever the fuck you're gonna do. But you have to
learn the instrument,
right? It's so frustrating wanting to do something and not being able to do it, right? And so people would just very quickly be like, well, fuck that. I'm gonna just go keep ringing it up at Target, where I know how to do it easy. Just beep, 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 beep.
Man,
and then,
I'm going through that right now. Yeah. I bought FIFA 21.
Yeah.
Just recently, a few days ago, it just came out. And I used to play online all the time. I was decent, I could win some games online. But I'm playing now, and I'm just spent the last 3 nights getting my ass completely severed off and then handed to me on a platter. Just complete garbage. I don't understand anything about how to defend in this new game. I'm getting trashed. And it sucks. Like, I'm not having fun doing any of it.
You're describing my first 4 full games of StarCraft.
Yes, just getting demolished. I mean, this is how everybody's career in FIFA starts, though. I mean, you start playing with somebody who's good because they introduce you to the game, and you get waxed forever, and then it seems like forever.
Yeah. Rod knows all about that.
We all do.
We all do. Yeah, everybody knows about that.
That's the only way you learn how to play FIFA is like getting your ass handed.
This guy getting your ass handed to you.
He just wants to bring it up because he was the one that handed my ass.
I didn't say
2007
that.
or something.
I didn't say that. Hey, 13.
Pick up the sticks, bro.
A win 13 years ago is still a win.
Hey, you know what, though? This is a really good time to plug something. Shout out, not shout out, but look forward to the TAID3I gaming streams.
Ooh.
Those are coming soon. We are working out the logistics, but you might just see the dudes playing each other in FIFA and settling this conversation right here on the tubes.
This was a secret project. This is
yeah. I did not tell them that I was going to say that.
I don't know who got the FISA warrant, but somebody.
It's earlier in this development, but I can see it.
Look forward for it. But I think that's
something you'd like to see. Go ahead and let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, shout out, like, and subscribe.
Do you like video games? Let us know. We want to hear from you.
Yeah,
have you heard of video games? Comment below.
I'm lost now.
FIFA getting waxed.
Oh, right, getting waxed in FIFA. So yeah, I'm going through that right now, and I'm having to remind myself like this will be fun once I get better at it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that people forget is like when you suck at it at the time, you're like, well, this sucks. And so you just think, well, it's going to always suck then. But you don't remember, like, well, you'll get better at it, and then it won't suck as much. Mm-hmm. Hopefully. Mm-hmm. That doesn't always happen. I tried to do video game design once, and I got better at it, and I realized more how it sucked. So
this speaks to what you talked about with politics and laws and stuff, which is trade-offs. So it's like you're making a trade. You're, like, taking the time to have this unfun experience because you're like trading it in for the time you're going to get better and have fun with it because you want that experience. Exactly. You're seeking that out.
You have to go through something preliminary experiences. It's kind of like there's a quote that I had in one of my quote of the days on my Instagram, and it was in order to have the freedom to play piano, you must first chain yourself down and master the key, like master the way to play. Mm-hmm. And he was like, it all really depends on your definition of the word freedom and what that means to you, because you might have to slave yourself every night for the next year to be able to play box whatever.
So this is what brings to my point. I was about to throw up a little video about it too on the screen here, but I'm gonna preface it with my own personal knowledge first.
Let me frame this video for you before you watch it.
Could you season it with your personal sauce, please?
I'd like to.
No, but what you're describing is true, and what we said in everything, like it's gonna be rigorous. It's gonna be. I was even talking about it before. Purpose doesn't necessarily always breed happiness. You're not always having fun, or it's not always a good time, and all those things. You have to adopt a mindset that is. In love with this process, right? It's in love with the process of developing, like getting better. Like when I sit down for a podcast or start a podcast, which shouts out I did. I didn't have any fucking clue what we were doing. I knew it was going to start off trash. And the idea of this podcast is not to be good, but it's to continuously get better, right? It's to like always be trying to develop. And so we come with new lights. We come with new setups. We come with new microphones. We come with new skills. We come with, in the hopes that one day I can rise to a level that is valuable to other people, right? Yeah.
Well, like you said, it's the difference between having a mindset of saying, how do I become the best podcast to how do I keep making my podcast better?
But it's that pursuit of being better than it is of just being something in the world,
making some sort of arbitrary cutoff.
The best NBA players ever were people who were not, their goal was not to get in the NBA. It was to get better at basketball every single day, right? It's like those people who are in that, in a sense, again, is a purpose-driven like thing. You're never as good as you can be. You're never at the top. You've never reached it, and so that purpose drives you all the way through life. It's called having a growth versus a fixed mindset, and this is a cool little explanation of it.
There are two types of mindset we can cultivate. One that embraces problems as opportunities to learn, and one that avoids them, often out of fear to fail. People that avoid conflicts can be described as having a fixed mindset. Those who see problems as interesting challenges have a growth mindset. Sometimes we like to switch from one to the other. People have a fixed mindset because they believe that basic qualities like intelligence or talents are fixed traits, and that these traits are responsible for success. They often like to document past achievements. With a growth mindset, people believe that new abilities can be developed through practice. This view creates the love for learning that most great leaders and artists have in common. For them, life becomes an exciting journey with endless opportunity to figure out new things and advance. To develop a growth mindset, Dr. Carol Dweck, the Stanford University professor who coined the term, advises leaders, teachers, and parents to celebrate trying. Teachers should applaud students for any grade if they studied hard. Parents should encourage their children to develop any new skill they are interested in. Doing this will make them learn the skill of learning, which will also help them back in the classroom. To illustrate the difference in everyday life, let's observe two imaginary kids. Jay thinks you've either got it or you haven't. Anne knows that she can learn anything if she wants it enough. At physical exercise, Jay avoids challenges. When it's time to jump over the vaulting horse, he's afraid to look stupid and be laughed at. Anne embraces any challenge. It's exciting. It's fun. She knows that failing is part of learning, and if she tries hard, at the end, nobody will laugh at her. Jay avoids feedback. If the teacher tells him how to improve an assignment he has been working on, he takes it personally. Anne knows that to improve, she needs to listen to constructive criticism. She also understands that it's not her that is being assessed, but the results of her work on that one day. Jay always takes the easy road. For example, he likes escalators and hates to take the stairs.
Facts.
When he is practicing the guitar, he stops the moment he's getting stuck. Anne usually doesn't even take escalators. She jumps up the stairs, counts every step in her head, and enjoys feeling the blood rushing through her veins. She practices the drums every morning for 15 minutes. Not that she always enjoys it, but she knows that effort is part of a journey to a more fun life. Anne likes to see others succeed. It inspires her. She knows that if she motivates her friends to get better, she herself is likely to grow too. If his friends try new things and succeed, Jay feels threatened. He's afraid that their success will put pressure on him to do more with his life.
You think somebody's gonna buy that?
Modern companies look for employees with a growth mindset because they solve problems and persist despite obstacles. To spot the right ones, some ask during the interview whether the job applicant believes if managers are born or if management is a skill learned. Jay thinks that managers are born. Anne gets the job. Neuroscientists support the idea. They confirm that the brain grows like any other muscle in the body, with training. Studies show that adopted twins tend to have higher intelligence compared to their siblings who stayed with their biological parents. The difference appears to come from the higher educational levels of adoptive parents and shows that nurture is more important than nature. A simple switch in how a person views a situation can mean the world of difference. Not just the outcome of that situation, the outcome of that person's place in life. As the late poet Samuel Beckett once said, "Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail better."
I feel like that wasn't really a good poem. I mean, I'm not no poem critic, but that just really didn't hit me. I thought that was going to be way more profound. It didn't rhyme. It set up for a great rhyme, and then it didn't rhyme.
It set up for a great quote, and it gave us kind of a
quote. I mean, ever tried, ever failed, nevertheless try again.
Yeah, I know, but ever tried, ever failed. Like, that sets you up for something really good. I just feel like the dunk. Like, you know, like, it's like when you see LeBron barreling down the thing, and then he just comes up for like a
with
soft layup, and you're like,
yeah.
You gotta dunk that shit.
Yeah, yep. I know that feeling.
I don't know. That's my little 2 cents on that guy.
I hear that.
In this poem.
It's a little bit of a biased video towards growth mindset.
Well, clearly.
They really want you to have that growth mindset. He's
They
like,
sure
hey,
do.
See how much better it is on this side? But I agree. I'm just saying I agree.
Hey, for personal experience, having had both of these mindsets before,
Yeah.
I like the growth one better.
Yeah, 100%.
Just personally.
100%. And I think that like he said, it people who have that, you can see it like instantaneously. Mm-hmm. Like it's like that they almost not even willing to try because it's like, well, I'm not good at music.
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
I'm
it's like, you know, it's like you people see that like talent, like you see Kobe Bryant and you think, oh, he was born to play basketball. And it's like, no, I mean, you know, sure, he developed his but he'll tell you straight to his face. He was like, I was quick, but I wasn't insanely quick. He was like, and I could jump, but I wasn't like the best jumper. He was like, I had natural athletic ability, but I developed it to a point where I became Kobe Bryant. And
the sports world is a great way to look at it too, because people that in the video they kind of touched on the idea of like letting your kids try lots of different things because they learn how to learn. And I think that when you look at some of the most top athletes in many of the different sports, the top athletes tended to have played multiple sports throughout their childhood, whereas now we're seeing a more prevalence in what's it called?
Focus?
Where they just kind of like, oh, okay, well, he's better at basketball than he is at football, so we're just going to take Jimmy out of football and put him only in basketball and train him only in basketball. They hyper focus in on that one thing, when actually what they really need to do is just be learning coordination, which is they're going to be able to learn balance and things by trying out different ways of moving their body. And so that was just something that I've seen, like when you look in the statistics, a lot of Randy Moss, LeBron James,
Bo Jackson,
yeah, Michael Jordan, yeah, I mean all these people played multiple sports. And I think that also I would love to touch on the idea of like the skill of learning. Like you have to acquire the skill of learning. It's not easy to teach yourself, because that's the thing, is like you're not being taught, you have to learn yourself. You have to go out and seek the knowledge. And even like we talk about this all the time about how a lot of times we'll meet people and they don't really even know how to effectively Google search something. And you're like, oh, just Google it, and then they come back to you 20 minutes later, they're like, I still can't find anything. And you're like, how could you not find anything? Like that's a simple Google, you do it in 2 seconds. But they don't have the skill. But they don't. That's a skill. Like understanding how keywords work in Google is a skill. You have to understand that, and you have to learn that, and you have to look at all of these things like little skills that you add to your repertoire, that make you, like I said earlier, a capable person, somebody who's capable of progressing in whatever kind of economy you happen to be in, or society. But
that's the difference too. Is like you said, the people who find their way to it, it's you hyper focus, or you pay attention to the gaining of that skill, right? Like if you want to be a good basketball player, like you don't think about winning championships, right? Like that's not really your goal. Your goal is to master dribbling, master shooting. Like you're just trying to develop each individual skill to a point where you can win championships, like and so I learning and doing that rigorous thinking. I'm telling you, man, it's all about that critical thinking.
#RT, rigorous thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm getting a lot out of the rigorous thinking involved in having a podcast and not agreeing on every single thing in life. Like once you realize that you have your own opinions, and that other people might disagree with you because your opinions might be wrong, and you might have to change course. Like that's a huge part of that mindset. That's why people talk about like killing your ego. I think that's definitely a step to fulfilling your purpose, is understanding that everybody's going to be wrong about something, man. We're all fallible. Facts.
Right.
I think they even talked about in that video where they were saying like this little Sally loves criticism and this guy hates it. It's like if you're criticism adverse, I think that's something you definitely got to work through and figure out, because in the end, like I love to be criticized. Like I love when people tell me the shitty parts about my podcast, or like the negative Yelp reviews and shit like that. Like I said, tell me the shitty parts about the job, because for me, I don't think of them as immovable obstacles of like, well, that's just the way it is, and I must suck or some shit, or like then I'm just not. No, I said, okay, cool, now I know what I can work on. Now I know what I can like get better on.
I have an identified problem that I can learn about.
And then I think you do have to weed through though. Like there's some people out here who are just, they're stuck in their own fixed mindset or whatever it is, so they're gonna just be like, you're trash, and it's like,
well, that's the thing. Like that's why there's a difference
being
between
open to it.
What do they call it? Constructive criticism. Yeah. Like there's a difference between being shit on and being criticized.
There's good faith arguments and bad faith too. Yeah. Where it's like you can come from an angle of like, hey, I'm going to criticize you, hoping that you get better or whatever, or you can come from the angle of just trying to tear the person down.
Yeah. Like I'm just trying to make you look dumb or
make you
whatever.
Feel like shit,
in which case you will revert to using tactics that aren't actually, like you'll say things that are actually false in order to achieve the goal of making this person look dumb in the moment because, like you said, you weren't focused on helping this person grow or even trying to learn something yourself.
Right. But I think I gotta be open to all of it. Like I'm open to both too. So like if you just want to shit on me, that's fine too. Like I'll weed through that bullshit to get to the criticism. Yeah. I had somebody try to throw some shade on me at the on the internet today.
You trying to throw some shade on my bro?
Yeah, you know, and it's like it's hard to say because they didn't like.
He's shining. You can't throw shade.
They didn't like throw it at me direct, you know. But you
know, they came with the subtext shade,
the subterfuge. Come on now, they were like, duh,
but you know when they're talking to you, you know what I mean? And
it's called subtweeting.
Yes. And it's so funny because even then too, I was like, well, maybe they're not talking about me, but maybe there's something in me. It's like if the shoe fits type situation. Like they're just talking trash, and I'm over here like, oh, you trying to get at me, bro? I'm like, so there's a part of me that like identified with what they were saying, and so but even as I was like, wow, like turned off by the fact that this person was shading me, like just. Not even trying to help me. I mean, maybe they were trying to help me, but I think they were just, if they wanted to help me, they would have told me direct. They wouldn't have just thrown it randomly out in the internet. But I learned from that too. You know what I mean?
Learning from everything.
I even sat down and had a self-reflection moment with that. I was like, well, is this true? You know, like, is this, the person was saying, oh, people should spend less time clout chasing and trying to like come up on, ride other people's coattails and just focusing on their own business, because this person wanted to hire me to edit a music video. Mm-hmm. But I told them, I was like, hey, look, I can't do it for like another week because I got a really super busy week this week. Now, I'm also looking for a personal assistant because this very reason. This whole week that I told her I wouldn't be able to do it, I also wasn't really communicating. Like, she was like sending me messages and stuff, and I just hadn't been getting back to her because I'd been so fucking busy. Didn't mean I wasn't going to do the project or anything. It's just like I hadn't shifted my focus from what I was doing onto her project yet. Right. So as I'm about to do that, she's like, hey, you know what? I found somebody else. Like, don't worry about it. I was like, all right, cool. You know, she's like, it seems like you're super busy, so I'll just have somebody else do it. I said, hey, you know, I feel that. You know, I was like, I even apologized. Like, my bad. I wasn't as attentive as I could have been, you know, but I did tell you I was going to have to push it out for a week or whatever. She never wrote back. But then, like I said, then I see all this saltiness about, like, riding other people's coattails and should be focused on their own business and this and that. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, if this is at me, like, hey, you don't fucking know my business. You don't know what my business is, where I make my money, how I'm doing it. Like, you think just me doing this little music video for you on some homie shit, like, I'm not even really getting paid my full rate for it or anything. Anyways, don't get me started, right? But I took that and I was like, am I focusing too much? Like, was this a missed opportunity for, you know, my own business and like, whatever. Even just like I said, even though it was thrown in a shady way rather than just saying, oh, fuck that bitch, she's just trying to throw shade on me. Like, I even look in that and try and say, can I grow from this in some way? Which I, like I said, there was a part of me where I realized I was like, what the fuck you talking about? Like, my shit popping. Like you said, I was like, I'm shining. Like, you over here bitter. I was like, I don't really see you popping. Like, you doing everything that you say I shouldn't do, or you're not, whatever. Your approach and my approach, like, I feel like I'm doing all right, and you just bitter because I couldn't. You do motherfuckers 99 favors when you can't do the 100th. They'd be like,
can't believe you, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Thought you had my back.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's exactly how they do you. So that's what I saw it as. I was like, all right, you know.
Oh yeah, I do this
all the time. You're
just
salty because I won't take care of you or whatever.
Man, one of my biggest bouts of like conscious, like, determined self-reflection on a particular issue was when I started to realize when you and moms and the rest of the family and all my close friends kept telling me how much of an asshole I was being. And at first I was like, oh, well, I've always been an abrasive kind of person. Yeah, like, so I was like, you know, like, they're just not feeling what I'm saying or whatever. But then they kept saying it. And I was like, okay, I got to stop and think about this. Like, maybe I am becoming more of an asshole. Like, maybe I am being an asshole and they're not just crazy, you know, like, because that's what you want to do. You want to be defensive. But you, like you said, you have to be able to look through that and see, just entertain it. Just give the devil its due just to see. So then as I'm doing the self-reflection, I was like, yeah, man, I guess I am kind of like becoming even more abrasive, and I'm actually becoming more contrarian. I like kind of pissing them off a little bit. And so I made the decision. I didn't feel like I was saying anything that was incorrect. So I just decided to not say anything. I was like, well, in this situation, I'll just not talk. I'll talk less in hopes that if I'm not voicing my opinion, this is when I learned that you don't have to voice your opinion. Yeah. this is an important lesson for me
Very
in my
important.
maturing into the person I am now.
100.
Is that I had to understand that like I would hear somebody having a conversation with somebody else somewhere, and I'd overhear some shit that I thought was dumb.
Yes,
and I'd go
sir.
over there and be like, "Hey, yo, I heard you guys talking about this." I'd be like, "Straight up, you don't know what you're talking about." And
Why, Mac?
And like I knew what I was talking about. I did this all the time, and to my friends and family, I did this. And so at that point, I was like, "Well, I'm clearly not getting through to them, and I don't really care if they agree with me. So I'm just gonna just be quiet." And so like. There's so many times when I learn the most from the negative shit. And I think that that's also another thing, like kind of to bring it all back to the Yelp reviews. That's probably what the companies are looking for too, because they don't need every customer telling them all the times when they went and they had a good time. They need to know like, hey, what are we doing wrong? Let me know.
No, they don't want that. No, they don't want that. They
don't want that on the Yelp reviews if they're
they want that in the comment box.
If you're a good,
that's why they send secret shoppers.
Yeah, secret shoppers. Yeah, exactly. But they do want to know.
No, they want to know though.
There's problems.
Yeah.
So that they can solve them. They don't want them to be public.
They don't want.
But they want to
know.
Yeah. So I think that that's also another reason that we're much more inclined to do it, because we're like, hey, yo, you need to. When there's something to be fixed, we're sure to let you know.
Yeah, for sure. People are quick. Dude, why is J.K. Rowling always catching fucking heat, bro?
Because she's rich as fuck and people don't like that.
Yeah, well, she has a very unpopular and vocal stance on trans rights. So everyone's been going at her on Twitter, and that bleeds into the real world.
What, she just like doesn't want people to be.
No, it's not even like she has a thing against.
It's a quagmire, because there was a specific case that she commented on, and then that specific case that she commented on has been litigated in the courts, and it has tons of baggage on it, because you start talking about biological definitions versus like structural definitions, and like more, like that kind. It's all about like words, and then it has J.K. Rowling like eventually kind of just being like, you know what? I support that woman. And then everybody's like, well, then you're a goddamn transphobe. And then that catches fire. And then you have, Twitter going crazy, because Twitter's Twitter.
Yeah. It's a whole fucking...
It's a quagmire. It's a quagmire of from people's opinions. And then it becomes news. So once it hits news, you got to distill it down to its smallest form, which is J.K. Rowling's a transphobe. And then now you have your meat of your story, and all the other stories spawn from that. This story is Pete Davidson shit-talking her on SNL, I think. Yeah. So it's like everything comes from that distilled news source of J.K. Rowling's a trans. It's like, why are people boycotting Harry Potter or something? Like, if that was the story, it would be because of this little nugget that's all distilled of all this mass amount of information, her reaction to that particular case, what that particular case meant in that country, because it was in England. It has completely different laws and shit.
I just don't know what she said. Like, I want to see what she said.
You want to get to the bottom of it? Hey, Google.
This
Google
is actually This is a good thing to end on. This is a good thing. This is interesting, because this is an interesting. This is one of the more interesting cancellation stories.
Heartbeat.
It starts from her tweet supporting a woman in England who was fired.
Oh, goddamn. I hate those books. Details of her new book were revealed. Villain.
This is another story based off of the distilled She Is a Transphobe story. So this story is she's writing a new book where her villain is a man who dresses as a woman to commit his crimes.
Yeah.
So,
which is like something probably like to bolster her.
Well, this is like a year after she's canceled. So it's like you get the after effects of being canceled, where now she's like leaning into it. She's like, fuck you.
I'll show you what a world like that looks like.
I'm going to ruin your kid's childhood.
Well, yeah, she's chosen this hill to die on.
Oh.
Yeah, leaning in even harder.
I mean, yeah, that's...
But this is, like I said, a year after she's canceled. So it's like...
The controversy in the writer initially occurred after she responded to an article discussing menstruation products, taking issue with the phrase "people who menstruate." Such an odd thing to see. This is the thing where your opinion, just like, do you really need to comment on the fact that it says "people who menstruate"?
Well, she got all butthurt because they came after her. like she was upset, and so now she's like angry at them, and she's intentionally trying to hurt them. Very childish in my opinion. But I'm also
wait. So you think that she's just lashing back out at the people who are going after her?
Yeah, because her original comments weren't really all that crazy. Well, to me, I don't know. That could be. But, I mean, she didn't really say anything. Like, from what I saw, it wasn't like she was like, fuck these. You know, like, I can't believe we're about to give them all the, like, you know, she should be fucking supported by her job or whatever. Like, because this person got fired. And she said something about it. And then I didn't really think that she said all that crazy something. But then they didn't like what she said.
I'm waiting for them to mention that, and they haven't.
They haven't. Yeah, they haven't said anything about how this started. But now I think that because of the backlash that she received, and they were trying to like tell her that she doesn't know what she's talking about, I guess, or you know, and she's like, "Oh, what? Didn't there used to be a word for people who menstruate? It's like, yeah."
But see that one too is like her responding to something about COVID-19, and she was canceled before COVID-19 was in the news.
Like this was years ago, actually.
I don't know about years, but
yeah, I thought it was like early last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is talking about something that happened on June 6th, and it's like, yeah, that happened too, but
yeah, she's like you said, she's getting lit up from all different angles.
Well, this is it coming back around again after the original backlash.
Yeah, well, they still don't like her.
If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth, she tweeted. Dang. The idea that women like me who've been empathetic to trans people for decades feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence. Hate trans.
One at a time, guys. One at a time.
Can't all of us women and trans come together against the men, please?
Can we all just agree that women hate men and that they're filthy people? I mean, come on.
Even the women with penises.
We all agree. I mean, we even have the lesbians on our side.
Hate trans people because they think sex is real and has lived consequences is a nonsense. It's very interesting though too.
You can also J.K. Rowling tweets about firing, you know, FIRING, like because there was a fire. That's where a lot of this stems from too.
Started, yeah.
You know, a woman got fired for not for using a pronoun a specific way or a non-specific way. And
she didn't use the pronoun correctly, and they have speech laws in England.
I believe that is the original.
That you have to call people by their pronouns or something?
I'm pretty sure they're very similar to the ones that Jordan Peterson got famous for going against in Canada.
And again, too, like that information is right here. Like we can find it. Is like this is a case where we did find some information, but the information was like just a small, tiny fragment of this controversy. Because it feels like this is something that's been ongoing with J.K. Rowling.
Maya Forestater.
There it is. Go. December 2019, before COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was before that too. I mean, that's when this.
This is the one that introduced me to it. So
yeah, this is when the article was written, though, and we're not necessarily when this whole thing happened.
Mm-hmm. This is everything we were talking about.
Yeah. The government plans to allow people to self-identify their gender.
Interesting.
That's what it was. Yeah, she like
a private
she
message
said
to a coworker.
Yeah, she said the thing that trans women aren't women, which is like a big no-no.
Yeah, and then the tribunal determined that her views were not protected as a philosophical belief,
and were in fact hate speech.
By saying trans women are not women.
Basically, yeah, by saying, like, we don't have to agree with your delusions, in our opinion, your delusions that trans women are women. And basically saying that I don't think that they are. And
it says the employment judge believes that to be absolutist and incompatible with human dignity and fundamental rights of others. Basically saying, like, you are illegitimizing their life. You're basically,
removing their humanity. It's like a crime against humanity on a small scale, I guess.
Yeah, that's what this employment tribunal has decided, which, you know, if you're working for a private company and you're subject to their HR and their terms and things like that, that's kind of what this is, it looks like.
See, I don't like this statement either, though. There are two sexes. Men are male, women are female. It is impossible to change sex. These were until very recently understood as basic facts of life, she wrote. Okay,
bad take.
I just feel like in the sense of, like you said, like, what about before we came up with the word male and female? What were there? You know what I mean? Like, she's
also denying that biologically, like, things happen. There's a spectrum. Biologically speaking, there is.
I mean, yeah, that happens.
Yeah, so she's completely ignoring that fact and saying everything's binary. Yeah, it's like, well, it's not necessarily binary.
Yeah, I just think that I'm one of those people that, like, gender is a social construct, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it does play out in society in the sense of, like, obviously Max brought it up too. People have different chromosomes or whatever. Like, some people are born with penis, some people are born with the vagina, but the way that expresses and stuff is very, either way, it's just made up. Like, same thing when I hear people be like, Miata's a girl's car. The fuck are you talking about? Like, a car.
Well, that's
can't be.
But I think what my point, I just want to clarify my perspective on it. It's the reason I bring up the chromosome thing is because if you're going to remove, because this is the government like sanctioning people being able to just identify as a different sex without having to go through like surgery and stuff like that. But if the government is doing that, then you can make a case that then all of the laws that are oriented between the sexes would then fall privy to those people because the government is now recognizing them. So because of that, because we use gender and sex as categorizations in legal form, I think you have to replace it with something. You can't just say that this is all now whatever you want. Like Joe Biden said, he was like, yeah, I think if you're a man, or if you were born a man but you identify as a woman, then you should be able to go to the women's prisons if you get charged with felonies. And I was like, well, you can't be doing that. Like, maybe after you've already had the operations and stuff like that. Like, I don't know where you're going to draw that arbitrary line, but there needs to be an arbitrary line drawn there, in my opinion, because those categorizations have a purpose, and we have to continue to adapt them to however it is that our culture is going to continue to evolve. But that's why I was saying chromosome. Like, if you want to take away male, female, sex, and all that, then just call it XY chromosome people, whatever. But, like, you're going to have to separate it somehow, like, especially when it comes to, like, something like sports, which is regulated by the government in a lot of other countries. Like, it gets hairy. I mean, there's millions of dollars on the line with these things.
I also want to state that right there is the original tweet that started this whole mess. That's the first tweet. That's the one. I stand with Maya. That's what canceled her, is that hashtag right there. Because that lady's bad take. Because that lady had a bad take. I think, you know, based on our beliefs, we can say, like, from our opinion, like, oh, geez, that's a shitty take that lady had on Twitter. And then J.K. Rowling was like, here's my take, plus, by the way, I stand with that lady's take. And that's where everybody was like, yo, you know how Twitter reacts.
Right.
Well, we understand social media.
This is total fairness, though. Like you said, I mean,
that's what I said. I was like, I didn't think she said anything crazy.
Personally, but I guess I'm not doing that now. But I guess I'm just saying, like, I don't see what's wrong with this statement here.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's wrong with it is because she's, like, associating herself with someone that the group has already said that we don't fuck with this person. And then J.K. Rowling was like, well, I back that person. And they're like, well, you're not allowed to do that because you're a huge role model to people, and we can't have you promoting the wrong message.
Because she didn't even say that she stands with her. She's just saying, like, I don't think she should have been fired.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, she's like, I just don't think that this is not, she shouldn't be fired for her beliefs.
Yeah.
Which I agree with.
Well, I agree with.
And I have a little bit of wiggle room with that because.
Well, I mean, it depends. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like I'm saying, I just have wiggle room with that because, like, in our kind of free market capitalist society, you know, Roseanne Barr makes a really bad tweet that seems really racist, even though she claims it's not. And then the TV show or whatever, the channel who is running her show or whatever, like, fires her. And it's like, well, she was working for those people. Those people don't want to be associated with her anymore because of her views. So they fired her. That's their right. And it seems like in this case, I don't know exactly what that woman's job was, but it didn't seem like she worked for the government. So this woman works for a private company. The private company finds these private messages and in this little HR investigation thing or whatever they did. And they're like, yo, we don't like that point of view because we think it's, quote, and they quote up there said disgusting or, whatever.
Yeah, they didn't like
however
it.
they worded it.
Yeah.
And then they fired her.
Yeah.
And it seems like in our society, whether I like it or not, that's the way it works. Like, you can get fired from
in
your
our
job.
society.
So.
Then yes, I agree. But I'm not sure if that's how if the laws are set up differently. Like, I don't know how she ended up getting fired, whether it was the company's decision or if she got leaned on because of these governmental laws. Because that's the thing. The difference is that here in our society, we have the
Freedom
free
of speech.
clause like written down. They do not, and so they actually have laws against stuff.
But
like
see,
that.
here's where I'm at with it with freedom, right? Like it's freedom. So for instance, like I think that chick should be able to say whatever the hell she wants to say, right? It's not like she kept a trans person from having a job, or she was like personally guarding the bathroom so nobody could get in. She
was just giving her bad
literally
takes.
was
She
not
was
even
just saying
discriminating
her
against
fucking
anybody.
whatever
She
the fuck
was
she
just
wanted to
saying.
say. And I think that you
real
should be
women
able to say
whatever you
want to say. Especially when you're not doing it with like I said, I don't see if it's hate speech. It's not like she ran up to these people and was like, "Hey, fucking."
The fact that it was a
fucking
private
bitch,
message
you're not
too.
a woman, like any of that stuff. So I think that, dude, are we gonna start just busting in people's living room and being like, "Hey, you said fuck Biden," like let's get him.
This is thought policing. This is thought policing. It's like literally just a little step because to understand your thoughts, they'd have to have evidence at first. But then again, this is another really good parallel between 1984 that I'm listening to right now. It's like this thought police is a huge trope in that book. I guess trope's not really the right word, but it's a huge theme in that book is the thought policing. And this is kind of like that. Like, you're not even allowed to have what they would consider the wrong opinion anymore and still be able to like do your own thing.
How do we get these corporations to stop doing it?
But so I didn't get to finish my point here. That's the freedom of the person to say it. But you also have the freedom to fire that person
them,
if you don't
it's a
fuck
private
with it.
company.
Like, I don't care either. Like, so if you want to, like you said, if I just don't want to associate with you anymore, which happens a lot of times. Like, my friends are free to say whatever the hell they want, but if they say some out of pocket shit that I don't fuck with, I'm like,
they're not free from consequence.
I'm not fucking with that kid no more. So that's fine. All that's fine to me, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't see where any of this ends in a place where somebody's doing something wrong. Like you said, I don't think the job's wrong for firing them necessarily, and I don't think that person's necessarily wrong for saying what she wanted to say.
Yeah, they're allowed to say whatever they want to say.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like now, like I said, if I found out that this person wasn't hiring somebody for this reason or was doing something like to bar them in some way, then I think I would be a little bit swayed differently. But if it's just a person saying like, I don't think that they should be able to do that, or I don't agree, whatever. Like, I don't think you should, like have to bear these ridiculous consequences to say.
I have a really, we'll never know, but I have a thought-provoking question about this. So, do you think that J.K. Rowling at this moment was as much of what she has become now, based on these other articles we saw of the other things that she's done? Do you think that it is more so in response to being canceled that she's leaned in and doubled down? Or do you think that J.K. Rowling would have naturally just been on these bad takes not bad takes, but do you think that J.K. Rowling would have ended up in the same position she is as a turf symbol, as a radical?
It's hard to tell because what we talked about before, like, here she's saying like, look, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, this doesn't seem very radical.
It looks like she just said like, but forcing somebody out of their job for stating that sex is real is like whack. And I would agree. But at the same time, like she says, live your best life, all this stuff. But this is your curated digital avatar version of yourself. So behind all this, she could easily be like saying way more heinous shit, you know, like she could be like, just like, wow, these fucking bitches, like this crazy, like I live my whole life a woman and deserve these type of rights that don't, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. So I really don't know because it's so curated that it's just hard to tell who she really is as a person without knowing her really as a person. But the way she's judging from her digital avatar in the sense of who she's presenting herself online, I don't think she was. I think now she's probably a little frustrated and fed up, and so she's probably kind of going back on the assault. Okay, here's like for a perfect example. I was talking earlier about that person who threw shade at me. You know how hard it's been for me not to post that same little something on my stories?
Yeah, to respond.
It's so bad. I even responding now in the form of the podcast, but all day I just wanted to be like, skip.
Yeah, two can play that game.
Yeah, and throw some light shade back.
You think you're good with this?
And I fought it. I still haven't done it. I won't do it. I won't acknowledge it. I really only acknowledge it for the conversation here, but I won't acknowledge it in my personal life just because, like I said, it's just.
It's not worth it.
That's why.
That's what I was gonna say.
But I feel like that's where she's at. Like I want it. Like it's like people start to come at you, and you kind of naturally get in a position where you want to defend yourself, or you want to go back after.
So you
them.
think she dug her heels in a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know because I still haven't really got a lot of the whole spiel about what she's posting now. Because the stuff that she is posting now, I guess, seems to be maybe not even a doubling down, but more of a.
She's definitely becoming. I mean.
Cynical
that is a little bit more
version of
herself.
herself.
I was gonna say condescending of a statement.
Right.
I mean, I understand what she's saying, and I agree with the sentiment, but it's definitely a way more condescending way to approach saying that. It's way more negative feeling to me when I read that than the original tweets.
Yeah.
Because the original tweets, she's acknowledging the fact that everybody has their freedoms to do things, including say that they think that trans women aren't real women.
And she's only mostly disagreeing with the fact the woman got fired. She's just
right.
like,
she's
why
not even,
did
like,
this
I don't think that,
beliefs cause them to get fired?
Right.
But when these
I don't
beliefs
like that.
seem very rational to somebody with like a surface level, or, I'm trying not to diminish the viewpoint that woman has, but you know what I mean?
Well, because I agree with Rod in the sense that I think that she has dug her heels in that sense, because I feel that same way too. I also experienced that when like you say something like that tweet and it's like, do whatever you want, live your life, do you, boo boo. Like I want you to be happy for real. It would make me a whole lot happier if you were. But I don't think, that woman should have been fired. And then everybody comes at you like you're some kind of evil person. And you're like,
that woman's evil.
Yeah.
How dare you
And you're
think
like,
she not be fired?
You're like, me? And you're like, no, like, I'm just saying. And then they keep coming at you. I'd also, I mean, this is
and here you are
to me.
6-8 months later, like, woo mom? What's that word? Coming out.
I would say
like,
that
I think it fucked her up.
I would say that in my view, I say this all the time, when hiking and in life, always take the high route. And I think that personally, in my opinion, she has not done that in this case.
Well, she's writing a book where her villain
I think
literally
she's taking the low route, and it's not going to end up. I mean, as a betting man, anybody in the comments.
I don't think it's gonna end well for her.
Yeah,
but what if that book's really good?
No, as far as it's selling, it's going to sell massive.
No, I'm just saying, like, what if it's
I think so. I would also put money on that the book is an extreme success, but I still don't think that this is going to end up being a good thing for her because.
Just because she doesn't really want this drama in her life.
Exactly.
Like I said, when she threw the original tweet out, it's not like she was like, it's time for me to rise up against trans women and fight against trans women rights.
Unsheathes her sword.
Yeah, she wasn't ready for all that. But she's slowly letting herself get drug into this
She's like fighting against quicksand. And she thinks that she can beat the quicksand into submission, but you can't. It's only going, the more you struggle, the more it swallows you up. So I think that what you're referring to is the metaphor of her reaching out and grabbing a vine of mental health awareness and just pulling herself out of that, because that's really what she should have done.
I didn't get to finish a point that I wanted to make earlier about the actual subject underneath the J.K. Rowling thing, which is this idea about sex and different chromosomes and stuff. I think that it's true, though. People can't have it both ways, Right. Like, eventually we're going to have to figure out, like, what's it going to be? Is it going to be we're all one race, like we're all just a human race, and there's
treat
no
everything
such
exactly
thing
the
as
same?
like male, female, and stuff. And like you said, so if a guy wants to self-identify as a woman and say, look, I'm a woman, treat me as a woman, and then he's allowed to, or she's allowed to just barrel up in the women's prisons or play in the WNBA. Like I'm about it. Like I'm so
just make a decision.
Like, but it's got to be.
It's
got to be. We're gonna have to decide as a culture which way is it gonna be, because we can't. Like Max said, we can't half-ass it and say, well, okay, you get to assign your own identity, gender, or whatever, but except for here, and here, right? It's like, well, then what the hell are you talking about? Like, if your whole argument, your whole statement is that these people are the same, then you can't then try and segregate them again. So same as like when I talk about with race, right, which seems to be a lot easier of a conversation for people to get into. It's like, I don't think of it any different. Period. Like, you're just not getting nothing from me, whether you're white, whether you're black. Like, if you're a white person, you come up to me, I don't think you're privileged. I don't know you. You know, same thing if you come up to me a black, I don't think anything negative or derogatory.
I don't think that you're poor
or a hood. Yeah, you get none of that from me. Like, I'm not going to treat the races as if they're different. It's just not. That's it, right?
Yeah.
We're all human beings. So You're either black, white, brown, whatever. Like you said, take all that shit out of the law. Take all that. Like, I don't want no affirmative actions. I don't want none of that. Take it all out of the lingo completely. But same too, if like, that's why I'm really against the government having their hand in all this stuff about deciding whether or not you're married and all this shit, or decide what females can do versus what males can and can't do, and all this stuff. Like the fact that men got the right to vote before, but not women. You know, like all this stuff is stupid. And then we have to write a law in that says women get to vote now. It's like, look, humans vote or don't vote or whatever. You know, like.
Well, I think that also it comes down to a freedom issue. I mean, everything really for me comes down to a freedom issue, and so I try to promote personal freedoms as much as possible. And in that case, I believe that I think that because of the fact that you can't have the government like leaning on sports leagues and stuff, forcing them to allow, because that's one group that I do hear who I feel like has legitimate cause for concern here is female athletes who are watching their records in female sports being destroyed by these new trans women athletes that are coming in and doing them because the like leagues or the competitions are being forced to allow them in. And I'm like, yo, if these are private competitions being like put on, like if this is like the UFC with Dana White and they're just paying for it all themselves, then they should be able to keep out whoever they want. Like if you can if you're gonna allowed to fire a woman because of her beliefs, then you should be allowed to segregate your sports competition to whoever you want.
It's like then inherently, like you said, they want to be the top of the females, you know, in the sense of saying, well, that's different.
Well, I would also personally start like, hey, if there are some women that think that they can ball with the boys, and there's some boys who think that there should be women in the NBA, then start a co-ed league and beat them for ratings. Yeah. Maybe it's exciting as fuck.
Yeah.
Do it. Mm-hmm. Like nobody's stopping you.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to, like, again, it's not like you have to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
If you think that you can ball up get some really good big 3 league dudes and be like, yo, let's start a co-ed version. Yeah. See if we get the ratings. And if it works, it works.
Well, because that's what I meant when I said, like, open it up. Like, you're going to have to open it up. Like, you're just going to have to say, okay, fine. There is no WNBA and NBA. Like, this is just basketball, and you're either playing or you're not.
Yeah, the National Basketball Association.
You know what I mean? Exactly. And then, and rather it being like a women's league, then maybe certain people got to fall down to the C and D leagues, you know, and like whatever. But then you can't be mad if men start
all the men are still at the top. Yeah, then it's like, hey.
It's like,
it's shown itself out now. But at least I like that we give it the opportunity.
Yeah, but
because there are some women out there that fuck some people up.
Ball, bro, that would come up and
shred
up the NBA. And it's like, but they're not allowed to. I don't know. I'm just like, you know.
But I wouldn't get the government to force the NBA to let them in either.
Well, because they're a private organization, right. I get that, and so it's like whatever. You
can't
have
it, like you say, can't have it both ways.
I think
can't force people to let you in or keep other people out.
This goes back to Rod's point of we have to define terms. Then, I mean, it all boils down to that. Whatever those terms are, they should be defined, or else you're going to have these images that we'll see that are going to spread around the internet. Like there's a trans woman named, I think her name was Hannah Mountsie or something. It was an Australian handball player, and she is a very large trans woman. She looks like Hulk Hogan in her body stature. She is very, very musculatured and dominates the handball league. So it's like that is shared from people who, you know, don't want trans people in sports and don't want trans rights to say, like, look at how ridiculous this is, because we have not defined, we don't have any defined terms. So rather than having and I don't know how politically correct those terms are.
Underlying want for them to separate those things.
Well, that's what we're saying, is that there are no underlying general terms. Everybody's gonna make their own terms on it, and I think that that's what's best. Like if you're a private, I don't think that the government should be able to do that.
This is like,
but if you're a private organization,
the Olympics,
then you make your own terms.
Yeah,
you know. So like if you like the Olympics, like handball Olympics.
Yeah. But
that involves the governments.
That sports seems to be the only thing where we have a hard time. Like,
well, it's the clearest example. I'm sure that I mean, because we're not women, I'm sure that there's more that we're not thinking of. But that's the one that I know that gets the most play because it's the easiest one to see.
Well, but anything based on intellect, you always feel like is easily like
level playing field.
STEM fields, for example.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, let it, like, what, it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Women
If you're good at it,
yeah. Like, who gives a flying fuck? But then when it comes to like basketball, for example, or something, we're like, well, the men are 6'7".
Well, this is where I think that this is where this like J.K. Rowling side of the aisle gets upset, because they're like, well, look though, I mean, we're accepting the fact that there are physical differences between men and women, and that's what sports are. It's physicality. Like, I mean, it also involves intellect, obviously, but
it's mostly
testing physical strength and stuff like that. So I think that that's why it's bleeding. That's why the conversation is bleeding into it so much, because that's all it is, and that's such a big part of it. And I think that they should be allowed to, but you can't force it. But I do think that it's about time that we do understand that we have come to a point where we're going to have to redefine all of this shit.
Yeah.
Like,
whether it's making
we keep
all
trying to
sports
track along. They're like, well,
co-ed.
we should just keep it the way it is.
That's
like,
what
it's
I
not
didn't
working
like
the way
about
it is.
this idea where she was like, it's impossible to change the sexes. But I'm like, that's not true. Like,
That
we
is not
can
true at all.
do anything we fucking
Dudes
want
been
out
chopping
here.
their
We can
dicks and balls
literally
off for literally all the
make
time.
8 genders if we want to. Right now, we can just say there's gonna be this. I mean, we could do anything we want. Like, it was completely made up words, completely made up definitions in the first place.
Did you guys hear about how Facebook solved the issue?
I
I
just
think
type in whatever you want.
yeah, you just type in whatever.
Yeah.
First, because they put like they expanded it, and then they had to expand it more, and then they
Yeah.
expanded it more, and then they were like,
You just type whatever you want.
put whatever you want.
Elegant
But see,
solution.
it's easy though. Like you said, there's no real consequence in the
On
sense
Facebook,
of,
yeah.
of like, you know, being. That's where it gets tricky, and this is where they battle it out, because the law, right? Like what bathroom you can and can't use, and like the laws
Yeah.
prohibit
What
and
Olympic team you can be on.
like allow
Yeah.
things to happen. Whereas, you know, on Facebook, it's like, be whoever the fuck you want to be.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
You don't even have to be a person. Be a cat. Like, nobody cares.
Which is the
Like,
beauty of the internet. And I think that that's why, like, we're having a problem, because so much of our society is now being housed on the internet, and the old institutions are not able to. The new round pegs do not fit in the square holes
Yeah.
of the way our society was built, because they've been rounded off by the internet. Now it's very hard
Yeah.
to tell where the edges are.
That speaks to our earlier conversation, the first half, because you're right. Like, we're trying to fit our new ideas of how to make money and monetize things and what we consider being successful and purpose-driven and fulfilled versus the 1950s idea.
Get a factory job.
Yeah, where it's like that square we're trying to fit in there. And that's why, you know, a lot of people like your parents aren't going to understand when you tell them, hey, I'm going to, you know, quit my job and do this crazy thing that you don't understand.
Yeah.
Because they're in that square mindset, and you're trying to fit the circle in
to
there.
change their whole paradigm. And
Yeah.
so, I feel the struggle though. You know, obviously I have a transgender daughter, so it's like, you know, I feel this plight as much as anybody. Like, I want to get my kid into sports, but I'm just like,
It's gonna be tough. Yeah, it's like,
how do I do that? You
yeah,
know,
that's like a
how do I
hard.
do
It's a
that?
brand new
You know,
problem.
like,
That's something
where
that you
do
really
I-
there's nothing there for
Right,
you.
you know, and so I think Mac threw out a really good. I've thought this often too. Where I'm like, you know, what if I just start a co-ed thing? You know, like what if I be the first person to bring this type of thing to the arena, and in a sense of it gives my kid a place to compete and
We'll just
belong.
have her play in
Uh,
co-ed leagues.
Right, or co-ed leaves. But I'm just saying, like, you know, or starting one is in particular. If there's not any available, I haven't looked into the depths of like, whether or not.
Every
like,
time
they
I
have-
see kids playing together now on
Sometimes,
like
yeah.
YMCA, like I saw someone we know's kid was playing basketball the other day. At
Yeah.
like a, looked
But
like a
as she gets
YMCA,
up,
and
as
it
she gets up in high school and stuff, it's like.
yeah, I'm not sure
you
how it
know,
works in
like
high school.
that, all that
Yeah.
starts to.
Is high school going to exist
Isn't
anymore? You
it?
guys think?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a conversation.
just a way to segue
I mean,
into
it's
the.
survived for like 100-some years
Yeah.
now, so I can't see.
I
why
mean,
it
high
would go
schools,
anywhere.
yeah. I mean,
got
They're
you.
going
if I
through
were gonna
great
bet,
lengths to put it on the internet, so I mean,
Well, I kind of meant in the sense of like everyone sitting in a classroom together, you know,
Well,
breaking for lunch.
high
going
school as
to
it's
the-
been done in
if,
the past.
if you want to
Yeah.
get to that point, then my whole thing was like, as soon as Max said we were talking about the internet, like that's why we're moving to digital avatars. Like that's why we're trying to figure out how to plug ourselves into the game or into the machine, because then ultimately be what the fuck you want.
Yeah, it solves all those
Do whatever you want.
problems.
Yeah, want to be a 6'5" male and play basketball, then do it. You know, whatever.
It
It's
releases all of
do
those.
it.
Yeah.
It releases all those limitations of the physical body, which seems to be the only thing holding people back from this whole like.
Hell yeah, plug me into the Matrix, baby. I'm ready.
Yeah, because then I mean, literally, like it's like in Black Mirror when that dude was like playing that girl in the show and stuff, and like in the game or whatever. It's like you could totally do that if you want, and there won't be no real qualms about it. So I mean, that's our ultimate savior from those boundaries and limitations. But in the meantime, I think about bringing that stuff to the market because then there are guys who maybe they couldn't quite hack it in the NBA or something, so they come play for the co-ed team, which is fine, And then there's really, really good females who want a better challenge and they can't get to the NBA. Anyways, there's nothing stopping people from creating these opportunities in the world. And I think that's what we're fighting for personally. The line of I saw this girl, I forget what her name is now, Kathy Newman, maybe? Is that her name? Who's that really smart chick from Australia who's also transgender? Not Kathy Newman. Kathy Newman's the girl who got obliterated.
I was like, Kathy Newman is for sure a real famous person, but she's not
somebody in the intellectual dark web, and I forget what her name is. But
I know who you're talking about. She was on that panel with Jordan Peterson. She was so smart. You're right.
Smart.
When she was talking, I was like, holy shit.
I'm gonna find her right now. Yep,
that's her.
Yeah. Catherine McGregor. That's her name. Catherine McGregor. So smart. And then she said in there, she was like, we can't.
Her Wikipedia or something.
Yeah. She said, we can't legislate our way to acceptance. And I thought that was so key. And the thing that I try and teach my child is like, look, man, like trying to get these people to, accept you. Like if you're fighting in the laws but deep down you're looking for society to just accept you as a person and your want to be a woman or a male or whatever, like those two things don't translate. As we even see now, like black people fought for their acceptance in the law, but that hasn't necessarily translated into the society as they see it right now, right? So I think the same goes for trans people. I mean, even women are still out here fighting for women's rights, and it's like, I thought we gave y'all those already, but I guess we didn't really. And it's because you're looking for this acceptance or this like equality, and that doesn't come from the law. Law doesn't give people
different
understanding.
Ideas.
Right, exactly. And so
you can force people into different behavior to a certain point, especially with with the threat of violence. Because I mean, really, that's the only reason why the government has the power that it does, is because it has the authority to come behind you with the threat of violence.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's like a kid that's smaller than you trying to pick on you. Doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Because you can just beat him up.
Yeah.
And so if he starts fucking with you, you just hold his head
but,
out. You're like, yeah, good luck next time.
Like, even if you think about it in reality terms, like, what's stopping you as a male who identifies as a woman from going into the woman's bathroom, right? Because it's definitely not the law. Like the law, there's no big law thing at the door that says like there's a sign and there's
no gender scanners
of
or
repercussion or something, right? But like I sent my kid to the bathroom. I was like, go use the bathroom. Go in the stall, sit down, use the bathroom, and do your thing. Now, if you get caught, you can maybe go to jail, and that's like where we get into a predicament, right? It's like the law can inhibit you because you're breaking their rules.
You start getting into the bathroom bill in North Carolina and that whole controversy.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same like when you if people get arrested for peeing at a children's park and they try to charge them with like child exposing yourself to children or something. It's like it was midnight, bro. I was at a park.
Yeah, and if someone is doing that, that doesn't mean that you did that.
Like,
there are people who might be doing that.
But when there's no children around, the situation is different. So that's the thing.
But so my point goes to the opposite side too. Like if J.K. Rowling's worried about a man running up in the bathroom and getting her or something, like they can do that right now. Like,
there's nothing stopping
There's nothing stopping a dude who wants to go up in the women's bathroom and look at you. There's nothing stopping them. They walk right in,
kick the stall right in on you.
So this idea that I tell my kid all the time, I'm like, look, be you. You're trans. I love you to death. the people who are closest to love you to death, they might not ever get it. I don't know if you can play in the WNBA or not, or I don't know, but you're just gonna have
some
to figure
people
it
are
out.
not gonna accept
Yeah,
you.
it is what it is. I think I'd rather teach her just not to be a victim to this whole situation, because you just never know when it's gonna come about. I don't know when they're gonna change these laws or write this type of shit in there. It could take 50 years. It could take 1 year. And I it pains me to see so many people in the world in pain and frustration over this process. That's the thing that kills me the most. I would love to see the change come about that they're looking for. But ultimately, like you said, I think that these people are looking for acceptance, as we all are, as we're all like looking for our own, to be just appreciated and acknowledged in the world for who we want to be and who we are. And that doesn't come from, the law. And so I would encourage all those people to find that, outside of it, because it's
find it in their friends and their family, in their communities.
Yeah.
And, I think it comes down to the fact that, not everybody's going to like you, and not everybody has to like you.
Find it in yourself first,
right?
Because like when you find it in yourself, you're going to be able to find it.
Then you can give it to others too.
Yeah, true.
So,
yeah.
I think that's a great place to wrap it up.
Yeah. I agree.
I really enjoyed our philosophical episode.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
A little something different for you. Let us know if you guys like this kind of format too.
Hey, yeah, because we can bring you anything you want, baby.
That's right. We are multifaceted, averagely intelligent gentlemen. All right. Love you guys.
Peace.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something